You hear that? What's going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. We've got a very cool knife to look at today. This is the Task Knives Poikilo collaboration Cyberkuza. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you and you are a follower of my channel, you may recall that I've actually owned I owned a custom Cyberkuza made by Task Knives. Actually sold it on this channel on one of my video sale videos type deals. So it's kind of cool that I get to see the production version, and TLDR, this thing is absolutely amazing, and it fixes pretty much all of the things I didn't like about my custom Cyberkuza. Yeah. Do you hear that? Like, how cool? I don't know how well that's coming through, but the acoustics on this thing is fantastic, and it makes you kind of wonder, was it designed with acoustics in mind, or is that just a happy accident? I don't know. I might have to reach out to my Poikilo rep, I guess I could say, because this was sent in to the channel for review, along with this little brother here. I'll be doing this in a separate video. I don't like this one as much, just as a heads up. It's sent to me to check out, and I don't think I'm going to be able to swing buying it. I would love to, because it's really, really cool. But yeah, let's get into it. So it's big. It's a big knife. Let's do measurements and stuff. Let's get that out of the way. 4-inch-ish blade. It's kind of hard. It's got, like, depending on where you measure it from, 3 3/4 if you go up to like here, but then if you come all the way down here, it's like 4.5 inches. Big blade, 9 3/4 inches overall, just about. Massive blade, M390. It's also very heavy, and that brings up kind of an interesting point here. 9.5 ounces. It's heavy because it doesn't have any lightning in it at all. You can see it's got titanium. Yes, this is titanium. Titanium inlay onlays, which is kind of cool. We'll talk about that in a minute, or maybe right now. Let's talk about it right now. See what has this big lip up here on the front where it's almost like an onlay, but then it transitions into an inlay. I assume it's actually all an inlay, and it just gets really thick up here at the top, but it kind of gives that illusion. You know, it's really cool how it does that, and it concaves up to here. Very, very cool. And you can see how it's inlaid right there. But there's no lightning, and there's no like holes inside that I can make out. If we could focus. I've looked pretty extensively. It doesn't look like there's anything in here to lighten it up. Maybe it's a construction issue that they couldn't do it, but I would think they would want to kind of mill out some parts in here. It doesn't feel like anything's milled inside of these inlays. I could be wrong. It is just a massive, massive heavy beast. M398 blade, I believe, right? Is that what it said? It comes with a titanium COA right here with the Poikilo Charlamander. No, Poikilo Chameleon. Chameleon face right there. They usually, M398, that is what Poikilo typically uses. M398, dark stonewash, blah, 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 rusty tank finish, September 2025. Tonto blade here, you've got a beautiful fuller up at the front. So very similar to my custom Cyberkuza in overall size, design, functionality. But I would say just more refined, right? Which arguably, my custom one kind of had more of that cyberpunk apocalyptic feel, because it very much felt more like, and I'll put a link to that video, it felt very much more like, you know, is cobbled together in the wreckage of American society, whereas this one's more refined, right? So it's kind of cool. Like, if you want the kind of grittier, like this thing looks like somebody scavenged a bunch of materials and like stuck it together, then you want to get a custom from Task Knives. But if you want something a little more refined, a little more finished, that has the same kind of feel to it, but not any of the kind of over-the-top stuff, maybe this is the one for you. See how it has these like little inlays up here with these lines gripped in there? That's very, very cool. Exposed screw on this side, not on that side. Very little hardware on this. I kind of wish this wasn't here. With a knife like this, where its primary function isn't like EDC, let's be honest. You can EDC this. It is very capable. It's actually relatively thin behind the edge, considering it's a full flat grind and it's such a big, beefy blade stock. But this isn't like EDC first and foremost. And this isn't a knife that a lot of people are going to own. And so whenever I see a knife like this where they do something like this, you know, I would rather they didn't. Like, sorry, lefties, you know, something like this, it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't like it. And I don't like how it's black instead of this matched finish. You know, if you're going to do this, let's try to match the finish. I don't know. It's kind of an eyesore on here for something that's more of a, dare I say, art knife oriented. Once again, fully capable. But this isn't something that your average person is going to pick up to go fishing with, right? Like, this is a true knife nerd type knife. This is a knife for the person that already has everything, and they want something wild, and they want something big and crazy. And so I think making it left-hand ambidextrous is not top of the list in terms of priorities. I could be wrong there. Got your typical pivot from Poikilo, nice and three-dimensional right there. We're going to get to this lock here in a minute, baby birds. I will feed you with that information. Just hold tight, because that is the most impressive thing on this knife to me, in my opinion. Tanto blade, like I mentioned before. We got the dark acid stonewash. I'm just all over the place. We're just checking this out together. I've had it for a few days. I haven't carried it because it's on loan. Well, I've carried it around the house, but I haven't carried it outside of the house because I don't want to put any marks on it. I assume this is going to go to somebody else after me. But I haven't looked it over in great detail. I was saving that with you all. Backspacer right here. It's got a cool fuller milled into it. Nice little detail. You've got the pig nose lanyard post milled in here, which is nice because it doesn't leave like a big hole and move things out of the way. But if you do want to use a lanyard, it's there. This tank finish is very, very cool. I have no idea how they do it, but it looks very rust-like. The custom version, I would say, is even better than this one. They did a decent job replicating it in a production knife, but it's not as cool as the custom. The custom really seemed like it was a piece of rusted steel on the handles, whereas this one, not quite as much. I assume this has got to be some sort of paint that's put on here, and then they do specific weathering to make it look like rust, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's an ano or something like that. This is all titanium. You've got weathered titanium. I guess you could say bolsters, even though they're not really bolsters. They're kind of the handle there. Ergonomics are reasonably okay. It's wide. You get a little hot spots back here. I mean, I wouldn't want to be working with this thing for hours and hours at a time, but it's actually shaped to the hand reasonably well. I mean, it's kind of a 2x4. You know, it's got some chamfering and stuff going on here. It's not heavily contoured. I'll say that it probably feels better than you're expecting. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, if you're expecting too much from a knife this size shaped like this, then you need to spend more time with knives, because it's pretty obvious that this isn't going to be an Ergo's first type knife. But it felt better than I thought it was going to feel. So, special brownie points for that there. Let's talk about the lock. All right, let's talk about the lock. This is the Task lock, right? Proprietary lock invented by the designer of this knife. I was going to try to say his name. I'm going to butcher it. I cannot say his name for the life of me. I'll put it down in the description below. I attempted to do that on my custom video, and it didn't go over very well. But this is not an axis lock, so let's get that out of the way. It's not an axis lock. It's basically a different version of a lockback. Now, I'm pretty sure this has probably appeared before, but this particular iteration is done super, super well. So you can see how it has like the shark tooth type cutout here on the back of the blade like you'd expect with the lockback, because it basically functions the same way. Now, they've done a good job kind of obfuscating the lockback so you don't know exactly what's going on, but that is what's happening. So this little tooth back here slides back, and then this is the spring lock that hooks into the back of that. No blade plate, by the way, completely rock solid. Now, normally in a lockback, you'd have an access point right here, usually a pin, and then you would have a lever back here, and you would press the lever back here, and then it would pivot on the axis pin, and then it would lift the lock up, right? That's your typical, like, you'd press back here, and then this would pop up. Instead, you just have a direct connection right here where you are just moving it out of the way physically up at the top. Now, the benefit to that is it does kind of act more like an axis lock type, right? Where you're unlocking it up here. You don't have to do the thing like on cold steel where you press it and you try to drop it and not cut off your fingers. So it's done very, very well. Now, typically, what the problem is with a design like this in most knives is these lockbacks have a lot of pressure to them, which means it's very difficult to lift it up at the top, right? You kind of need the leverage back here with that point to kind of pop it up. But they have tuned this in a way, right? The fine details, devil's in the details. They've tuned it in a way where there's not a ton of pressure. Like, it's easy to do with one thumb. You don't even have to do like a 2-finger type thing. On my custom, that was my biggest point of contention with this knife. It did have more pressure than this. You really had to use both fingers. And the one that I bought was kind of a prototype, meaning that it wasn't a refined button like this. You can see how it has the dome with the texturing on there, which is very comfortable to disengage. The custom that I had basically like Ace Hardware screws that were just screwed right in. And so they were very, the edges that you were using to disengage the lock was very uncomfortable for your thumb, and they kind of looked like a afterthought that were put in there, whereas this is completely refined and super easy to use. And it has that cool sound. That sound is just so freaking cool. Love this thing. Love this thing. Normally I would have made it happen and tried to buy this. Maybe it'll still happen, but I'm just not in a place right now where I want to do that. But man, what a cool freaking knife this is. This is such a cool knife. Now that I handle it, I'm like, maybe I got to make this happen. Maybe I got to sell some Striders or something and pick one of these up. Let me know down below, what do you think of this knife? I feel like this, I don't know if these have dropped yet. I probably should have opened with that. This was announced at Blade Show. I tried to get my hands on one to check out. Took a little while, right? It's being passed around. I don't think these have been released widely yet. There's been a few pop up here or there that were like, samples and pre-sale samples and stuff that dealers had. I don't think this is a wide release yet. It comes in a few different variations. You've got this one here, which in my opinion is the best one, which is why I waited to check this one out. You've got one that's kind of more bead blast, silver titanium, right? A little bit cleaner. It doesn't have the rust, like weather type feel to it. And then there's like the fully blinged out Damascus polished blade type version, which is cool, right? I like that, but it always seems a little bit odd because, this knife and blinged out don't really go along together. Oh, I did want to talk about the pocket clip too. It actually works pretty well. It has a ton of tension on it though, so if that's something you care about, it may be an issue for you. And of course, the fact that it's got like a mini COA on the pocket clip here, some people don't like. My custom version had a way bigger pocket clip, and it essentially had like all this information on it. I thought it was cool because it felt very industrial. It felt very like, alien spacecraft type vibe to it, which is I think what he was kind of going for. But a lot of people in the video, when I showed it off, they didn't get it. They didn't like it. Let's compare it to the little brother really quick for anybody that's still hung out with me here. So both of these are Poikilo. Both of these are task knife releases. This one does have an axis lock though, which I do not like. But I'll be doing a separate video on this guy, but you can kind of see how they're similar but different. All right, guys, I'm out. Talk to you later. Take care.